my reactor. So I'm back again with chapter 10 of the fight. Okay, let me get started. Alice continued to heal and to grow. She came down to the cookhouse with me for the first time on the day Curry had her baby. Alice has been with us 3 weeks. She might have been 12 or 13 mentally now. That morning, she had told Rufus she wanted to sleep in the attic with me. To my surprise, Rufus had agreed. He hadn't wanted to, but he had done it. I thought, now for the first time, that if Alice could manage to go on not hating him, there would be very little she couldn't ask of him. If. Now, slowly, cautiously, she followed me down the stairs. She was weak and thinner than ever, looking like a child in one of Margaret's Wayland's old dress. But boredom has driven her from her bed. I'll be glad when I get well, she muttered as she paused on the step. I hate it to be like this. You're getting well, I said. I was a little ahead of her, watching to see that she did not stumble. I had taken her arm at the top of the stairs, but she had tried to pull away. I can walk. I let her walk. We got to the cookhouse just as Nigel did, but he was in a bigger hurry. We stood aside and let him rush through the doors ahead of us. Huh? Said Alice as he went by. Excuse me. He ignored her. Aunt Sarah, he called. Aunt Sarah, Curry's having pain. Oh, Murray had been the midwife of the plantation before her age caught up with her. Now the Waylands may have expected her to go on doctoring the slaves, but the slaves knew better. They helped each other as best as they could. I hadn't seen Sarah called to help with her birth before, but it was natural that she should be called to this one. She dropped a pan of cornmeal and started to follow Nigel out. Can I help? I asked. She looked at me as though she just noticed me. See to the supper, she said. I was going to send somebody in to finish cooking, but you can't you? Yes, good. She and Nigel hurried away. Nigel had a cabin away from the quarters, not far from the cookhouse, a neat wood-floored brick chimney cabin that he had built for himself and Curry. He had shown it to me. Don't have to sleep on rags up in the attic no more, he said. He built a bed and 2 chairs. Rufus had let him hire his time, work for other whites in the area until he had money enough to buy the things he couldn't make. It had been a good investment for Rufus. Not only did he get part of Nigel's earnings, but he got the assurance that Nigel, his only valuable price of property, was not likely to run away against him. Can I go see? Alice said to me. No, I said reluctantly. I wanted to go myself, but Sarah didn't need either of us getting in her way. No, you and I have to work to do in here. Can you peel potatoes? Sure. I sat her down at the table and gave her a knife and some potatoes to peel. The scene reminded me of my own first time in the cookhouse when I had sat peeling potatoes until Kevin called me away. Kevin might have my letters by now. He almost surely did. He might already be on his way here. I shook my head and began cutting up a chicken. No sense tormenting myself. Mama used to make me cook, said Alice. She frowned as though trying to remember. She said I had to be cooking for my husband. She frowned again, and I almost cut myself trying to watch her. What was she remembering? Dana, yes. Do you have a husband? I remember once something about you having a husband. I do. He's up north now. He's free? Yes. Good to marry a free man. Mama always said I should. Mama was right, I thought, but I said nothing. Excuse me, y'all, my sinus. My father was a slave, and they sold him away from her. She said marrying a slave is almost as bad as being a slave. She looked at me. What is it like to be a slave? I managed not to look surprised. It hadn't occurred to me that she didn't realize she was a slave. I wonder how she had explained her presence here to herself. Dana. I looked at her. I said, what is it like to be a slave? I don't know. I took a deep breath. I wonder how Curry is doing in all that pain and not even being able to scream. How could you not know what it's like to be a slave? You are one. I haven't been one for very long. You were free? Yes. And you let yourself be made a slave? You should run away. I glanced at the door. Be careful how you say things like that. You could get into trouble. I felt like Sarah cautioning. Well, it's true. Sometimes it's better to keep the truth to yourself. She stared down at me with concern. What will happen to you? Don't worry about me, Alice. My husband will help me get free. I went to the door to look out towards Curry cabin. Not that I expected to see anything. I just wanted a distraction from Alice. She was getting too close, going too fast. Her life would change so much for the worse when she remembered. She would be hurt more, and Rufus would do much of the hurting. And I would have to watch and do nothing. Mama said she'd rather be dead than be a slave, she said. Better to stay alive, I said, at least while there's a chance to get free. I thought of the super pills in my bag and wondered just how great a hypocrite I was. It was so easy to advise other people to live with their pain. Suddenly, she threw the potatoes she had been peeling into the fire. I jumped, looked at her. Why'd you do that? There's things you ain't saying. I sighed. I'm here too. She said, been here a long time. She narrowed her eyes. Am I a slave too? I didn't answer. I said, am I a slave? Yes. She had risen off the bed, half of the bench. Her whole body demanded that I answer her. What in the world is the distractions? Now that I had, she sat down again heavily, her back and shoulders rounded, her arms crossed over her stomach, hugging herself. But I'm supposed to be free. I was free, born free, yes. Dana, tell me what I don't remember. Tell me. It will come back to you. No, you tell me. Oh, hush, will you? She drew back a little in surprise. I had shouted at her. She probably thought I was angry, and I was, but not at her. I wanted to pull her back from the edge of the cliff. It was too late, though. She would have to take her phone. I'll tell you whatever you want to know, I said wearily. But believe me, you don't want to know as much as you think you do. Yes, I do. I sighed. All right, what do you want to know? She opened her mouth, then frowned and closed it again. Finally, there's so much. I want to know everything, but I don't know where to start. Why am I a slave? You committed a crime. A crime? What did I do? You helped a slave to escape. I paused. Do you realize that in all the time you have been here, you never asked me how you were hurt? That seemed to touch something in her. She sat blank-faced for several seconds, then frowned and stood up. I watched her carefully. If she was going to have an historic moment, I wanted her to have them when she was, out of sight of the waiters. There were too many things she could say that Tom Wayne in particular would reflect. They beat me, she whispered. I remember the dogs, the rope. They tied me behind a horse and I had to run, but I couldn't. Then they beat me, but, I walked over to her, stood in front of her, but she seemed to look through me. She had that same look of pain and confusion she had when Rufus brought her from town. Alice, she seemed not to hear me. Isaac, she whispered, but it was more a soundless movement of her lips than a whisper again. Isaac, an explosion of sound. She bloated for the door. I let her take about 3 steps before I grabbed her. Let go of me. Isaac, Isaac. Alice, stop. You will make me hurt you. She was struggling against me with all her feeble strength. Sorry about y'all. My sinus, my sinus just getting over a sinus infection. They cut him. They cut his ears off. I had been hoping she had seen that. Alice, I held her by the shoulders and shook her. I got to get away, she find Isaac. Maybe when you can walk more than 10 steps without getting tired. She stopped her struggle, stared at me through streaming tears. Where'd they send him? Mississippi. Oh, Jesus. She collapsed against me crying. She would have fallen if I hadn't held her up and half dragged and half carried her back to the bench. She sat slumped where I put her, crying, praying, cursing. I sat with her for a while, but she didn't tire, or at least she didn't stop. I had to leave her to finish preparing supper. I was afraid I would anger Waylon and get Sarah into trouble if I didn't. There would be trouble enough in the house now that Alice had her memory back. And somehow, why is you in here? It had become my job to ease troubles. First Rufus, now Alice, and as best as I could. I finished the meal somehow, though my mind wasn't on it. There was the soup that Sarah had left simmering, fish to fry, ham that had been rock hard before Sarah soaked it, then boiled it, chicken to fry, and cornbread and gravy to make. Alice forgotten potatoes to finish. Bread to bake in a brick oven. I don't know who keep calling me, but it don't make sense, y'all. It don't make sense. I'm getting distracted. Bread to bake in a little brick oven alongside the fireplace. Vegetables including salad, a sugary peach dessert. Waylon raised peaches, a cake that Sir had already made, thank God, and both coffee and tea. There would be company to help eat. There would be company to help eat it all. There usually was, and they would all eat too much. It was no wonder the main medicine of this herb was laxative. I got the food ready almost on time. They had to hunt down the two little boys whose job it was to ferry it from cookhouse to the table and then serve it. When I found that they wasted some time staring at the now salad Alice. Then they grumbled because I made them wash. Finally, my wash house friend Tess, who also worked in the main house, ran out and said, Mr. Tom said get food on the table now. Is the table set? They're set, even though you didn't say nothing. Oops, I'm sorry, Tess. Here, help me out. I thrust a covered dish of soup into her hand. Curry is having a baby now, and Sarah's gone to help her. Take that in, would you? And come back for more, please. She hurried away. I had helped her with the washing several times and had done as much of it as I could myself recently because Waylon had casually begun taking her to bed and had hurt her. Apparently, she paid her debts. I went up to the well and got the boys just as they were starting a water fight. If you two don't get yourself into the house with that food, you sound just like Sarah. No, I don't. You know what she be saying. You know what she'll be doing too. Now move, or I get a switch and really be like her. Dinner was served somehow, and it was all edible. There may have been more of it if Sarah had been cooking, but it wouldn't have tasted any better. Sarah had managed to overcome my uncertainty, my ignorance of cooking, and on an open-hearted teach me quite a bit. As the meal progressed and the leftovers began to come back, I tried to get Alice to eat. I fixed her a plate, but she pushed it away, turned her back to me. She had sat either staring into space or resting her head on the table for hours. Now finally she spoke. Why didn't you tell me, she said bitterly. You could have said something, got me out of his bed. Oh Lord, his bed. And he may have well have cut my eyes and ears off with his own hands. He never told anyone Isaac beat him. Shit. It's true. He never did because he didn't want you to get hurt. I know because I was with him until he got back on his feet. I took care of him. If you had any sense, you would have let him die. If I had, it wouldn't have kept you and Isaac from being caught. It might have got you both killed. Though if anyone guessed what Isaac had done, Dr. Nigga, she said with contempt, thank you though so much. Reading niggas, white niggas, why didn't you know enough to let me die? I said nothing. She was getting angrier and angrier, shouting at me. I turned away from her sadly, telling myself it was better, safer for her to vent her feelings on me than anyone else. Along with her shouting now, I could hear the thin, faint cries of a baby. I will be back, y'all, with chapter 11 of The Fight.